Hello, I'm Dr. Tara Palmatier of shrinkformen.com. Welcome to my channel and thank you for watching. If you would like to schedule a session with me, you can reach me at shrinkformen@gmail.com or shrinkformen@protonmail.com. Today's video is adapted from an article I published back in August 2023 titled, "What Does It Mean When a Borderline or Narcissistic Woman Says, I Feel Unsafe?" When a woman says, I feel unsafe, it's commonly interpreted to mean that she's at risk of physical harm from an abusive boyfriend, husband, or ex. This understanding stems from the perception that unsafe generally implies a high risk of assault and injury. However, this interpretation may not apply, and in fact, usually doesn't, when the woman making the claim is a narcissist, histrionic, or borderline who is the primary aggressor in the relationship. In these cases, unsafe usually doesn't mean what people outside the relationship assume that it means. And just to clarify, engaging in arguments and responding to provocation with yelling and name-calling, though immature, does not necessarily constitute abuse. In many cases, it's a response to the abuse of the primary aggressor, what some people call reactive abuse. Additionally, this is what abusive women will claim is abuse and why they feel unsafe. That is to say, when their male partner reacts to the female partner's abuse with anger, or in many cases, just by calmly holding them accountable. So, if you're a man and your toxic wife, girlfriend, or ex tells you, or anyone else, that you're making her feel unsafe, what does it mean for you? In all likelihood, it means you are unsafe. An abusive woman saying, I feel unsafe, likely means you're at risk for false abuse allegations, arrest, restraining orders, parental alienation, and being prohibited from seeing your kids. Do not ignore, do not minimize, do not make excuses to avoid addressing the peril you are most likely facing. Statements like these, that is, I feel unsafe, or variations thereof, pose a real-world threat to you. Now let's talk about some potential scenarios and what they mean or what's going on when a BPD or NPD woman says, I feel unsafe. If that is happening, if she says that, you should be concerned. Very, very concerned. In addition to being in jeopardy for, again, false abuse allegations, ex parte motions, etc., it is probable that one or more of the following scenarios are at play. First, financial and custodial manipulation, or as I like to say, why keep the bull when you can bleed him dry at family court for free? Once the love bombing stage ends and devaluation begins, the narcissist and borderline's true nature becomes apparent. That's when mutual disillusionment and resentment set in and grow. It's when you see the empty, angry adult toddler, behind the mask of the person you once loved. This realization can unfold over months, years, or even decades, and is influenced by factors such as your level of denial and bargaining, which are stages of grief, and compounded by family of origin issues. Recognizing a BPD or narcissist's true character usually causes resentment and conflict. In fact, once you finally see them as they truly are, they hate you for it. Well, more than they already hate you, that is. Confronting them with their abuse, cruelty, selfishness, entitlement, lack of emotional and physical intimacy, infidelity, or simply for being a terrible partner infuriates them. Moreover, they have no interest in understanding your desires, needs, hurt feelings, and how their actions affect you and the kids. This only fuels their anger. In other words, asking them to have some empathy makes them angry and, quote unquote, feel unsafe. In these situations, the statement, "I feel unsafe," can signal the beginning of a legal strategy to gain custody of the kids, a substantial share of the marital assets, that is to say, way more than 50%, and a portion of your future income while they are evading accountability. That's what "I feel unsafe" is. It's one way to avoid accountability. And it often foreshadows restraining orders and the initiation of divorce proceedings if you're not already there. It can also serve as a means to manufacture evidence against you. Therefore, when you hear "I feel unsafe," consider it a performative statement and assume you are being recorded. 2, maintaining control and dominance. Narcissists, borderlines, and histrionics need to feel in control of you and the relationship. They're easily triggered when they perceive a loss of control over their victims. Although they can turn anything into a trigger when they're jonesing for a drama fix. But in this type of situation, practicing emotional detachment, for example, refusing to engage in their circular arguments, or setting boundaries, and you practicing self-care will provoke them. And by the way, setting boundaries, self-care, those are all behaviors that healthy partners will support. Healthy partners aren't threatened and angered and afraid of a partner who has boundaries and practices self-care, but I digress. As you become less tolerant and more resistant to their high conflict reindeer games, NPDs, BPDs, and HPDs feel unsafe. However, their feelings of discomfort, anger, and spitefulness are not genuine fear. Thus, the statement, "I feel unsafe," is more often a power move designed to reassert their dominance. It serves as a warning that any loss of control on their part will be met with severe consequences, potentially involving law enforcement. 3, couples therapy as a manipulation tool. In some cases, narcissistic and borderline women may demand couples therapy as a last resort to maintain control or regain control. Many individuals with cluster B personality disorders and/or traits avoid counseling like vampires avoid sunlight due to their fear of exposure. They're willing to go to extreme lengths, such as filing false police reports or committing perjury, to avoid accountability and punish their perceived target of blame, which is you. However, I want to backtrack and amend something. When I say that narcissists and borderlines are willing to go to extreme lengths like filing false police reports and committing perjury, I'm saying that from a normal framework. For these individuals, making false police reports and committing perjury, that's not extreme for them. That's just an average Wednesday afternoon, okay? That is not extreme for them. Extreme, again, for normal people with a conscience, not extreme for them. They won't hesitate to do it. They don't think twice about it. So be aware of that. Now, when their dominance and control are threatened, an enabling gender-biased or inexperienced couples therapist can easily turn into an ally for a narcissistic, borderline, or histrionic partner. Therefore, when these women claim that they feel unsafe during therapy sessions, It is often a calculated performance aimed at manipulating the therapist into affirming them as the victim. This manipulation serves to maintain their power and to validate their abuse of you. Additionally, an enabling therapist can inadvertently assist in manufacturing evidence to support these women's false abuse allegations in court. So exercise caution and consider the potential risks before agreeing to couples therapy under such circumstances. And if you'd like more information on this topic, I have both a series of videos and articles on couples therapy with borderlines, narcissist, and histrionic wives or girlfriends. Search for it, they'll come up. Okay. 4, smearing, alienating, and mobbing. And mobbing, in case you don't know, is bullying perpetrated by a group as opposed to an individual. So frequently, a toxic partner will begin cultivating her victim narrative long before openly stating to you that she feels unsafe. Many of my clients are shocked by how far back their wives or girlfriends' smearing of them goes and how far back alienating of the children goes once they finally connect the dots. So don't be surprised if you discover that she's told her friends, mutual friends, and your friends some combination of I'm a victim, long-suffering martyr story to grease the eventual false abuse allegation skids. If your family of origin includes narcissists, borderlines, and other toxic personalities, she will smear you to them too. And sadly, her lies, projections, distortions, exaggerations, and role reversals will often find a receptive and participatory audience with these kinds of family members. I've had clients over the years whose own parents, siblings, cousins, etc., have joined in with their abusive wives or exes, mobbing and alienation. It's horrible. It really is. If this happens to you, don't make excuses, don't rationalize, and don't minimize your family member's treachery. And that's what it is. It's treachery. It is an egregious betrayal. It is beyond appalling, and you must not trust them moving forward. In other words, don't share anything with them you don't want getting back to your ex. For that matter, don't share anything with nice family members who may very well tell the toxic family members who will then report back to your wife or ex. Don't argue with them. Don't call them out. They'll only deny what they're doing and blame shift onto you or try to pathologize you. And then this gets spun into more evidence for crazy, for court, that you are angry, scary, and mentally ill. It's just, yes, they deserve to be called out, but it's not in your best interest. So I strongly encourage you not to do it. Now, why do abusers lie to your friends and family? To isolate you, to deprive you of support and undermine your credibility should you choose to eventually tell the truth about them. By the way, seeking support from your own family and friends is a natural and healthy thing to do. Many of my clients' wives, girlfriends, and girlfriends, tell them they're not allowed to talk about what goes on in the marriage to their family, that would be a betrayal. What they really mean is, I don't want you telling your family I'm abusing you. Now, when a borderline or narcissistic partner seeks support from your support network, that's another abuse tactic. She should be seeking support from her own people, not yours. Okay. 5, grooming and conditioning abuse. The statement, I feel unsafe, can also serve as an abuse conditioning tactic. Abusers typically consolidate control and dominance gradually. much like the analogy of the frog in a slowly boiling pot of water. They systematically erode your self-regard and self-esteem using a variety of abuse tactics, including projection, gaslighting, splitting, projective identification, and DARVO. DARVO stands for, and I've done a video and an article on this topic as well, DARVO stands for deny, attack, and reverse victim and offender. In my opinion, it's one of the most insidious forms of psychological manipulation. Not only is it a kind of projection, but it also shifts the blame onto the actual victim, effectively victim blaming. And by victim blaming, I mean genuine victim blaming, not the exaggerated claims sometimes made by certain feminists who continue to portray abusers like Amber Heard as victims. A man's life can be ruined on social media and off social media through mere insinuations and accusations of abuse, absent any actual evidence, absent any criminal complaints or due process. And most men nowadays are acutely aware of this vulnerability. And by the way, believe evidence, not claims of victimhood that are unsubstantiated by evidence. My clients understand how precarious their situation becomes when their partners accuse them of abuse or when they make ambiguous statements like, "I feel unsafe." This phrase is vague and open to assumption and misinterpretation, which makes it a powerful tool for abusive women who are well aware of its implications. What makes narcissists, borderlines, and histrionic women and other toxic people feel unsafe? Well, essentially, expecting a narcissist, borderline, etc., to behave like an accountable, emotionally mature adult who behaves with integrity and takes responsibility for her words and actions makes these people feel unsafe. In these cases, unsafe doesn't mean they're scared for their lives or their emotional well-being. It means that they are angry and not in control, and angry about not being in control. For example, having boundaries is abusive to these kinds of people. Not letting them bait you into pointless circular arguments, they find abusive. Not allowing them to scapegoat you, in other words, blaming you for their bad behavior or blame shifting, they also experience as abusive. Not going along with their dishonest victim narratives, they find abusive. If you want to practice self-care, you guessed it, you're abusing them. And if you refuse to enable their pathological immaturity, double standards, and entitlement, abuse, abuse, abuse. In other words, if you don't let them abuse, exploit, and control you, you're being abusive to them. Furthermore, if you treat them like an adult who's accountable for her words and deeds, it's also abusive to them. It's nuts. What should you do if a borderline wife or girlfriend, narcissistic, whatever the variety of crazy says, "I feel unsafe"? Quite a lot, actually. And I will provide some practical advice on handling this frightening predicament in some follow-up videos. Meanwhile, if your partner or ex says she feels unsafe, if you're not already, you should probably be recording all interactions with her and prepare for the worst moving forward. Furthermore, stop arguing with her. I know it's hard. They say crazy things. They lie. They contradict themselves. They talk out of both sides of their mouth. But arguing with them particularly after she says, "I feel unsafe," you're just helping her to manufacture more evidence against you. So I repeat, stop arguing with her. Get support from a mental health professional, such as myself, who has expertise in this area. I advise you to avoid any mental health provider who minimizes and legitimizes this kind of threat. That is, I feel unsafe. Has he ever hit you? Has he ever threatened to harm you? Well, no, but I still feel unsafe. If a therapist minimizes or invalidates that by saying, well, she means she feels unsafe and her feelings matter. Feelings aren't facts. Feelings aren't facts. Feelings aren't facts. Feelings are not facts. And you need a counselor, if you're going to work with one in a couples therapy situation, who understands both the threat and the menace of this statement when the woman makes it, and who takes it seriously. And by that, I mean the therapist understands and takes the threat and menace implied in that, a statement like, I feel unsafe, seriously. And for the record, all women know what this statement means. Okay? We do. So if a female therapist plays dumb about it, she's either anti-male gender biased and or being disingenuous, i.e. full of shit. If a male therapist plays dumb, he's either just as anti-male gender biased, disingenuous, and or playing Mr. White Knight. Best case scenario, this kind of counselor won't be able to help you. Worst case scenario, they could do a lot of damage in terms of divorce and custody. Thus, it's probably best to terminate with a carefully worded email explaining why you're terminating. Okay, that's it for today. I will do a follow-up to this. I think I have 3 articles in total in this series, so that'll be 2 more videos. The next one, I believe, will be more advice on what to do if a borderline or narcissistic, histrionic, whatever the trail mix of crazy is, wife or girlfriend says in couples therapy or co-parenting therapy for that matter, that she feels unsafe, how you handle that and how you can hopefully mitigate any legal damage from that. So as a reminder, I am Dr. Tara Palmatier of shrinkformen.com. Thank you for watching. Thank you for visiting my channel. Thank you for likes and shares. I am on all the social medias. Well, maybe not all of them. There are a lot of them, and who can keep up? What else? Oh, yes. Once again, if you would like to schedule a session with me, you can reach me at shrinkformen@gmail.com or shrinkformen@protonmail.com. Both of those emails are in the About section of this video, as well as a link to the original article. Have a great day. And yeah, today's the 4th of July. So for those of you who celebrate, happy Independence Day.